Okay, because of what happened in the last video, we should have a pretty short video for you today. The last video was supposed to include prepping all the scales and gluing them up, but if you remember, if you watched the end of that one, I realized I didn't have any glue. Got plenty of epoxy here now. I picked some up today, so we're going to glue these up, and that's all we can do until well, tomorrow sometime when we can actually start shaping these scales, because I leave them at least overnight. Even though this is a quicker epoxy, generally epoxies come in quick cure, mid, and slow. Slow cure, you want, I think it's 30 to 48 hours. Slow cure, you want, I think it's like 30 to 48 hours. You want a couple days for it to really fully dry completely. And that's the hardest, most rigid form of epoxy. Midway is, well, midway, and then slow cure or quick set. It hardens really quick. I believe in 8 hours roughly most of them reach their full hardness, but they're a little bit pliable when they're done, and I like using that for when I'm using wood, because wood changes a little bit, because wood is it responds to its environment, temperature and moisture, so it changes the slightest amount. You notice that these handles will just be a hair different in the winter than they are this time of the year now in the summer. And if you use a real rigid epoxy and you get that change from the wood, it could cause an issue there. Something could break apart, or you could split the wood or something like that. But using that epoxy with a little bit of flex, it's going to allow those scales to change just ever so slightly. So little things you pick up over time. Other little things you pick up after you've glued so many knives and or done a project over and over and over, you start to realize certain things are a pain to deal with. And that is, for example, every time you go to mix epoxy for a knife, I got to look around for a scrap piece of cardboard somewhere, try to dig up something to mix off a bit of epoxy on, and then, so after doing that so many times, it just becomes worth it to pick up things like this, little cups, and then you're looking around for a little nail or something to mix your epoxy. So it becomes worth it to just start buying packs of popsicle sticks. Those little things add up so much. You'd never believe how much time it takes just wasting going around. It's much better to spend $2 or $3 and get a pack of 30 or 50 cups like this. It'll save you some time. Now I will say, watch it with epoxy, because when you epoxy, the way it works is when those a two-part epoxy, when those chemicals mix, it generates heat, and that heat is what helps it cure quickly. So if you spread it out and mix it out on a piece of cardboard, you don't have much volume confined in an area, so it's spread out, and it takes a lot longer for it to set because it's so spread out. When it's in a cup like this, you have that volume is compressed, so there's more sitting together essentially, and that means it generates a lot more heat and it'll cure a lot quicker. And you'll notice if you're holding this cup while you're mixing it up, you'll feel the heat in your hand. So just something to think about. You don't want to mix a lot, just enough for one knife in one of these cups, because you'll never get the knife put together before the epoxy is set up and you can't spread it anymore. Okay, so this is sitting this side, so we're going to epoxy this side of the tang. Now here's a little trick. Don't epoxy all the way up to your front edge, because you're going to get some squeeze out, and if you epoxy all the way up there, it's going to squeeze out the front, and it's going to be a little tough to get off your tang. So now I haven't been ultimately successful with this, but I have gotten it right a few times. So I'll also epoxy the pins a little bit. Pin number 1. Pin number 2. Now this process is where you will be happy you took the extra time to be precise with all your cuts and drilling. Now's that time. Because if you weren't, if you were sloppy, this part here is going to be really difficult. Now that you've already got the epoxy on, you don't have a lot of time to go changing fitments and drilling things out a little bit differently then. Notice we got all our holes filled, So that's just all going to hang in there. A little bit more than we need there. Now this should be able to, it might be a little bit tight, should be able to tack. Let's check our fit. Not bad, not perfectly together yet, but once we squeeze the clamps in, we'll get a nice tight joint. Another tip is that you don't want to put too much pressure on these joints. You packed all the epoxy in there, you don't want to squeeze it all back out again, which is exactly what will happen. Made that mistake a few times, you don't want to do that. Another super exciting day in the shop. Well, they're all exciting days. I think I say that in every video. An exciting day in the shop. Any day usually I get to spend in the shop, even if it's super hard, grueling work, it's exciting. And some days it is like that. Whew, some days this summer it's been up 35 degrees and I've been in here grinding away on the belt grinder, steel shards all over me. But it's still been great because I love to build and create, and we're finally going to see what we've been building here for the last week. So here's all 6, all taped up. Some super cool grain patterns on almost every one. They're all quite different. Just check out how this one's going to look. Those cross grains, really cool. Some of them have more linear grain pattern like this, which is super classy as well. This one's super dark here on the ends like that. Really cool. I'm excited to grind these into shape. We're going to go over to the belt sander and do that. We're going to start out with a 60 grit ceramic belt. By all the time we've spent on the belt grinder since the start of this project, you can imagine why I was so excited to get that new grinder. I mean, so much of this work you need a good grinder for, and I was doing that all before with my little 1x30, so production time is definitely sped up. We could still get faster, still make certain steps a little more streamlined, but we're doing great so far. I'm really excited. First thing is to flatten them in this dimension. So that means flushing all these pins. A couple of them are stuck out more than others. Some of them are, like this one here, there's not much excess at all. But that's the first step, and then we'll flush it in this dimension. Now these blades, okay, so we have both dimensions ground, both around this way, and our sides are flattened. So that's the key. Now we can base all our contours off that. These are looking fantastic. If you're looking at your numbers on these and you own one of these numbers, because all of these knives are spoken for besides, well, number 1, but this is probably not number 1. What happened was I taped all of these up, and then I realized I need to number them somehow so I know what scales I cut out pair with what knife. So I could write the number of the knife on the scale, on the scales, and then the number on the knife and match them up so I didn't lose them all. So I just wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on each knife. This could be any knife. It just happens that I wrote number 3 on it when doing layout. So it's going to be interesting when we pull this off and see actually which knife is yours. Every one is gorgeous. Every one is unique. Just that material alone is so strong. The pattern is. It just gives an awesome look. And those stainless pins look great there. This one here is pretty cool. Look at that. It's pretty neat. Again, don't know what number that is. This is a cool, look how close this piece of grain is right here together. A couple close pieces. These are beautiful. That long, straight dark grain like that. Really cool. Now stage 4 will be hand sanding, the final stage. Just check out the grain on these, the shape. Just fits so great in the hand. This will make a fantastic little skinning knives as well. Just I can tell by the way they feel. It's just they just feel perfect. We have some mid-wax wood hardener here. I've been using this for a little while now. I'm really liking it. It draws itself very deep into the wood. It soaks very deep into the material. And it stabilizes the material. So you'd use it on the material like this wood. And this is not a super hard wood either. So it just stabilizes it. Makes it a little more impervious to moisture, and say if you were using it for skinning, the blood is not going to draw into and stain the wood the same. Just gives it a harder, more impenetrable surface. I'm going to move these away. What I've got done here now is they're all in clamps like this. This is just technique I picked up on my own so that I can paint them with a super thin liquid, the wood hardener, and then they can sit up like this and the handles aren't touching anything. I'm out here right on the edge of my garage here now, just so I don't get any dust from the shot on it. And just look as this goes on. Now while all our knife handles are out there drying up, and that's going to take a while because they'll need to be finished sanded once more after that stuff sets in, so we need a little bit of time, and in that time we're going to craft our sheaths. I have a template made, and the nice thing about doing batches with them all the same is that you can create a template and then you can just cut and fabricate everything. You don't have to custom fit and constantly be checking things. If you take your time and do a good template, you know it'll work. The sheath I want to do is this sheath right here, which I created for my original necker, the very first knife I ever made, and it's my favorite style. You've got that quick snap there, super quick, very efficient, sits pretty low profile, no extra bulk. The back side of the leather is nice and smooth and supple against you. If you're wearing it under your shirt, it's nice against your skin. Just a good overall feel. I really like it. Okay, so what I just did here was I went on ahead and mocked up this first trial sheath. Now this was a trial. This is a little bit different than what I had in mind. With the template, I was going to do stitching and do a welt, but then This leather that I have is pretty thick, and for these small neck sheaths it just looks way too thick and clunky. So I did no welt so that the thickness is right, and then I did pins because you can't cut out through pins, of course. This tab's on here. This is where I'll install a grommet, and that's where you can put your cord through, whatever you want to use, paracord or some leather strap or something like that to wear it around your neck. And then I just left extra length here. I was going to do them all red. I'm not sure. I'm going to stop the video here actually today. Put it out to you guys. What do you think? Green, red, black, or medium brown, or dark brown? Let me know in the comments. So that's it for today. A lovely way to end off the week, getting those knives done. We're going to peek at them on Monday. I'm really excited for that. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to pull that tape off and see which numbers got what scales. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you come back for that one. Please hit the like button. Leave me a comment down below. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I hope the rest of your weekend is really, really superb. Thanks for watching, guys.